students! Welcome to another episode of English on Air. I'm Teacher Anna, your fantastic study buddy. Today, we're going to engage ourselves with our last lesson for the second quarter. Are you ready?
Yes!
Have fun while learning. I believe this lesson will also help you when you are reading some important information or data. You can share this knowledge to your family and friends. So, let's start! Before we start with our discussion, I want you to take a look at these images. I want you to group them according to their similarities and label them as Group A and Group B. Perfect! What do you observe with these pictures? Exactly! Pictures which are in Group A are texts that need to be read from beginning to end, while Group B consists of pictures that do not necessarily read from beginning to end. So now, do you have any idea what our lesson is all about? Fantastic! It's all about linear and non-linear text. Do you have any idea about the similarities and differences of these two? Stay there and listen.
For this lesson, you will learn how to distinguish between linear and nonlinear texts and convert information from linear to nonlinear text and vice versa.
Let's start with a linear text. A linear text is a text that is written in traditional way without the aid of graphics. It is being read from left to right, from beginning to end, and has syntactic and grammatical features. This type of text has an order or sequence. Typically, the author who decides the order or its reading path. But what is a reading path? A reading path is the way the readers take through a text. Generally, those printed texts on paper are considered as linear text. Can you give some examples of linear texts?
Yes!
Brilliant! Some examples of linear text are novels, short stories, poems, news articles, and letters. All of these are texts that we read from beginning to end. How about nonlinear text? Nonlinear text is represented using different kinds of graphics, such as charts, graphs, and other figures. It is called nonlinear because the reader does not read it sequentially. Instead, the reader decides on the way of reading the text. It has multiple reading paths. Here are some examples of nonlinear text.
The first one is a line graph. It is a graphical display of information that changes continuously over time. We plot lines using several points connected by straight lines. We can use this when we want to show if the population of our country is increasing or decreasing every year. Second, we have a bar graph. It works similarly to a line graph. It only differs in the use of bars of different heights to show different values. It may run horizontally or vertically. But the important thing to know here is, the longer the bar, the greater the value. Bar graph can be used in business. For example, a company wants to show their annual sales history or if the company has done well in a particular year.
Then we have a Venn diagram. A Venn diagram is an illustration that uses circles to show the relationships among things or finite groups of things.
Venn diagrams help to visually represent the similarities and differences between two concepts. The parts that overlap show similarities, while the portions that do not overlap show the differences between the items. For instance, you may want to show the similarities and differences of Philippine culture and Korean culture. You can show it through a Venn diagram.
Another one is the flow chart. It is a type of diagram representing a process using different symbols containing information about steps or a sequence of events. Each of these symbols is linked with arrows to illustrate the flow direction of the process. Just like other nonlinear texts, flowcharts can also be used in other subjects. For example, in science, we can use this to present the scientific method. Again, these are just some examples of nonlinear texts.
Now, through the use of the following examples, how can we interpret linear and nonlinear text? Let's try. Be ready with your pen and paper. Study this bar graph about how students at park sites get to school. Then answer the question.
Here are the answers.
This time, let's try to transcode information from linear to nonlinear form and vice versa. Remember, the word transcode means to change the language or information from one form of representation to another. In transcoding, we should extract information from a linear text to nonlinear text. Here are some steps to follow.
Step 1. Read the passage to get a general idea of the subject matter. Step 2. Look at the text to identify what information is needed to complete the chart or graph. Step 3. Locate the relevant information in the passage and transfer it to the chart or graph. Use keywords or phrases, not the whole sentences. Then, choose the appropriate nonlinear visual. Step 4. You may be required to include a heading or title and classify information into categories under headings. I think everything is clear now. So, are you ready for my challenge?
Yes!
Great! So I have a text here. All you need to do is read and study the text. Then, create a nonlinear text using the given information. Choose the appropriate nonlinear visual from the following. You have 2 minutes to answer this. Here's the answer. We use a cycle diagram to show the life cycle of mosquitoes. Mosquitoes undergo a complete metamorphosis. They go through 4 distinct stages of development during a lifetime. The 4 stages are egg, larva, pupa, and adult. The full cycle of a mosquito takes about a month. Were you able to transcode the linear text to a nonlinear one correctly?
Yes!
Great! I'm glad to know that you understood our lesson well.
Once again, let us be reminded that the difference between linear and nonlinear text mainly depends on the reading paths. Since linear texts have sequential order, they have only one reading path. Conversely, nonlinear texts have multiple reading paths since they are non-sequential. Before we end this lesson, let me leave you with this quotation from B.B. King. The beautiful about learning is that no one can take that away from you. That's it for this episode. This is Teacher Anna, your fantastic learning buddy. See you in the 3rd quarter here on English on Air. Bye!